Everyone. So welcome to this session. My name is Abhilasha and I'll be taking you through some PYQs for CSAT. Over the last 7-8 sessions, this is the 8th one. So over the past 7 sessions, we have covered PYQs of CSAT 2024 and CSAT 2023. Now we are doing the PYQs for 2022. So I hope you've been taking advantage of this and I hope that you are ready for your CSAT, which is just around the corner. I hope by now you have already hit the like button. If you haven't, then do hit it. Also, please remember to share the session. If you share the session, more and more friends of yours can join and take advantage of all the PYQs that we are covering. Also, I hope that you have already subscribed to the channel, because if you haven't subscribed, then you will not be able to participate in the chat, and therefore please make sure that you have subscribed. I hope I'm audible and visible to you. Let's get the show on the road. Let's get started. चलो start करते हैं. अभी time waste करने का time नहीं है. Sure. So let's first look at the UPSC CSAT trend analysis from 2019 to 2024. एक बार फटाफट से देख लेते हैं कि CSAT का ट्रेंड क्या रहा है. 80 क्वेश्चंस ही रहे हैं over the past 4 years. 6 years, 80. English, the number of questions has dropped from 2019, where it was 30 questions. 2020 it was 26, then it went up to 27, 21, 22, 23, again it went down to 26, and now last year again it was 27. I'm assuming that it will continue to be 27, but whatever, 26 or 27 questions, you should be ready for one question here or there. Please remember, it's nothing to panic if you do get one extra question. All you need to do in this paper is just continue doing question after question after question and not bother about which question is coming, right? So just do it. That's what you need to do. If you have to look at the other sections, reasoning, there were 18 questions earlier, then went down to 12, then 22 again, then 17, then 11 and 15. So I'm assuming again we'll keep it around 15 questions. So that would be your reasoning section, and quant again for 38 to 40 questions could be anything where your paper will fall. So that's your paper. Hopefully this trend will continue. If you look at the English section and its difficulty level, in 2024, easy questions were 4, moderate questions were 11, and difficult questions were 12. So we would say all in all, it was a difficult paper. If you look at 2023, there were 10 easy questions, 8 moderate and 8 difficult. So moderate to difficult, moderate sort of a paper. If you look at 22, there were 7 easy questions, 8 moderate sort of questions, and 12 difficult questions. Then 21, there were 12 easy questions, 20, there were 8 easy questions, 19, there were 10 easy questions. And if you look at the moderate questions, there were good numbers, 9, 12, and 12. So the moderate questions were much higher than the easy and the difficult ones. So these papers were generally towards easy to moderate side, right? Because 6 difficult, 5 difficult, 8 difficult definitely shows that the paper was easier. If you look at the trend, this had good number of difficult questions, then less number, then good number. So keeping that in mind, ideally for 2025, you should have a lesser or fewer number of difficult questions. So probably I would say 2025 should have, let's say, 8 questions. Let's say again 10 to 12 questions, and whatever questions remain should be whatever 10 or 6, whatever, 10, 8, whatever. So 8 to 10 questions on the easier side. That probably will make it an easy to moderate sort of a paper, which is what we will be hoping for. A paper that's too easy is not really good, because then a lot of people attempt it. A paper that is too difficult again is not good, because it makes it impossible to attempt the question. So we want a moderate sort of a paper that should be very helpful. Let's look at the questions now. Let's start with the first set. Okay. I'm going to give you a minute to read. What you can do is pause the video here, take a minute, read it, and then continue. Okay. So that is what I will do. I'll mute myself for a minute. All right, let's take a look at this passage and we'll try and understand. So, this one says the main threat to maintaining progress in human development comes from the increasingly evident unsustainability of production and consumption patterns. So, because production and consumption patterns are unsustainable, so that is why there is problem in maintaining human development. So, we're not able to keep to the same pace. Current production models rely heavily on fossil fuels. We now know that this is unsustainable because resources are finite. Obviously, there's only enough amount, X amount of fossil fuel available. What happens afterwards? So, the close link between economic growth and greenhouse gas emissions need to be severed. Severed means to separate, to cut, for human development to become truly sustainable. If we really want to make everything sustainable, we have to stop using these fossil fuels and that greenhouse gas emissions. They have to be cut, separated. Some developed countries have all begun to alleviate means to reduce the worst effects by expanding recycling and investing in public transport and infrastructure. But most developing countries are hampered by the high cost and low availability of clean energy sources. So it's difficult for the developing countries. Developed countries need to support developing countries' transition to sustainable human development. Obviously, we want help from the developed countries. All right, let's take a look. So, what is the correct answer to this question? Unsustainability in production pattern is due to which of the following? Heavy dependence on fossil fuel. Yes, that is what this entire passage is. Limited availability of resources. Yes, that is also correct. Expansion of recycling is not the reason why production pattern is unsustainable. So answer will be 1 and 2 only. So therefore option number 1 is your correct answer. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next question. The next question also comes from the same passage. Let's take a look. So it says, consider the following statements. Okay. And developed countries can support developing countries transition to sustainable human development by, okay, so how does a developed country help a how does a developed country help a developing country? By making clean energy sources available at low cost. Yes, that's possible. If they did, it would make life easy. Providing loans for improving their public transport at nominal interest rates. If they could, then that would also make it very easy. Encouraging them to change their production and consumption patterns. Yes, that is also something that a developed country should help a developing country with. So all three will be valid. Therefore, answer should be D, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. I hope you got that. All right. Let's take a minute, read this passage, and then we will look at the questions. All right, let's read the passage together. So it says, unless the forces and tendencies which are responsible for destroying the country's environment are checked, if you don't stop it, and afforestation of denuded areas taken up on a massive scale, the harshness of the climatic condition and soil erosion will increase to such an extent that agriculture will gradually become impossible. The desert countries of the world and our own desert area in Rajasthan are a grim reminder of the consequence of large-scale deforestation. So if you do away with forests, this is what will happen. We'll become deserts. Pockets of desert-like landscape are now appearing in other parts of the country, including the Satluj-Ganga plain and the Deccan Plateau. Where only a few decades back there used to be lush green forests with perennial streams and springs, there's only brown earth bare of vegetation without any water in the streams and springs except in the rain. So essentially, we are moving towards desertification of the areas, which is going to be very, very harmful for us, right? All right, let's look at the question. So, according to the passage given above, deforestation and denudation will ultimately lead to which of the following? So, depletion of soil resource, yes. Shortage of land, no. Lack of water, yes. So, therefore, answer will be 1 and 3 only. No, no, yes. 1 and 3 only. Option number C. Okay, I hope you got that. This was very straight from the passage, therefore, it was not very difficult, right? Okay, let's look at the next question. Again, I'm going to give you a minute to think, read, and then we will discuss this question. All right, let's read this. In simple matters like shoemaking, we think only a specially trained person will serve our purpose. But in politics, we presume that everyone who knows how to get votes knows how to administer a state. But that's not true. When we are ill, we call for a trained physician whose degree is a guarantee of specific preparation and technical competence. We do not ask for the handsomest physician or the most eloquent one. Well, then, when the whole state is ill, should we not look for the service and guidance of the wisest and the best? Essentially, we are saying that politicians also need to be wise and best and understanding what is happening, right? All right, let's take a look at this question. What is the message of the author in the passage? We assume that in a democracy, any politician is qualified to administer. No, the author has said exact opposite. Politicians should be selected from those trained in administration. Yes, that is a good idea. We need to devise a method of barring incompetence. How do you bar incompetence from public office? No. As voters select their administrators, the eligibility of politicians to administer a state cannot be questioned. The author is questioning the whole idea, so therefore, not D. Best answer will be option number B. All right, let's take a minute and read this next passage and then we'll discuss it. All right, let's read the passage together and then we'll see. So it says, the poverty line is quite unsatisfactory when it. Just give me a second, guys. Huh? Sorry, I was just trying to make sure that the passage came in the right place because it was not visible. So, the poverty line, like we said, is quite unsatisfactory when it comes to understand how poor we are. It's not only because of its extremely narrow definition of who is poor and the debatable methodology used to count the poor, but also because of a more fundamental assumption underlying it. It exclusively relies on the notion of poverty as insufficient income or insufficient purchasing power. One can better categorize it by calling it income poverty. Now, if poverty is ultimately about deprivations affecting human well being, then income poverty is only one aspect of it. Poverty of a life, in our view, lies not merely in the impoverished state in which the person actually lives, so not just the money, but also in the lack of real opportunities given by social constraints as well as personal circumstances to choose other types of living. Even the relevance of low income, meager possessions, and other aspects of what are standardly seen as economic poverty relate ultimately to their role in curtailing capabilities, that is, their role in severely restricting the choices people have to lead variable and valid lives. So, because people cannot have, lives where they can choose a career or choose a way of life, that's why their lives are so limited, and that is what poverty here is all about. Okay. So I hope you got that. Let's look at the question. So this is question number 5. Why is the methodology adopted in India to count the poor debatable? Well, this is debatable because it is counting only income poverty and nothing else. So there is some confusion. No, there is no confusion. There are wide diversities in the condition of the role. Again, this was not mentioned. There is no uniform global standard. Again, we don't know if there is no uniform global standard. It is based on the proposition of poverty as meager income, as mere income or buying capacity. So not meager income. So D is the correct answer, guys. Okay. All right. Let's look at the next question. Question number 6. Why is income poverty only one measure of counting the poor? Surely there must be others also. Okay. So why is income poverty the only one? Let's take a look. It talks of only one kind of deprivation, ignoring all others. Okay, so therefore it is only one measure. Yes, because it is only counting one type. Other deprivations have nothing to do with lack of purchasing power, but that's not the only one measure. Income poverty is not a permanent condition. Well, we don't know if it is permanent or not. Income poverty restricts human choices only no, it restricts choices at all points of time. So best answer will be option number A. All right, let's look at this next question. What does the author mean by poverty of life? What is the author's meaning when he says poverty of life? All deprivations in a human life which stem not only from lack of income but lack of real opportunities. That is what he was talking about. Impoverished state of poor people in rural and urban areas, no. Missed opportunities in diverse personal circumstances, no. Material as well as non-material deprivation which restrict human choices permanently. We don't know if it is permanent. So not D. So best answer will be option number A. Okay. All right. Let's look at the next question. Here you are. Again, take a minute and read. All right, let's read the passage together, everyone. So, in some places in the world, the productivity of staples such as rice and wheat has reached a plateau. So, now we are not able to grow anymore. Neither new strains nor fancy agrochemicals are raising the yield. So, nothing is happening. Now, not is there much unfarmed land left that is suitable to be brought under the plow. So, there is not even more land. If global temperature continues to rise, some places will become unsuitable for farming. Now, application of technology can help overcome these problems. So, agricultural technology is changing fast, and much of this change is brought about by affluent farmers in the West or in Americas. The techniques that are developed in the West are adapted in some places to make tropical crops more productive. But if it is not adapted, then technology is of no use. In the developing world, that applies to as much to existing farming techniques as it does to the latest advances in genetic modification. Extending to the smallholders and subsistence farmers of Africa and Asia, the best of today's agricultural practice in such simple matters as how much fertilizer to apply in one would lead to greatly increased availability of food for humanity. So would things like better roads and storage facilities to allow for carriage of surpluses to markets and reduce wastage. So we need a lot of things in the developing world, right? In Asia and Africa. Okay, let's take a look at question 8. What is the assumption here? The first one. Development of agricultural technology is confined to developed countries. Yes, that is what the passage has said. Agricultural technology is not adapted, and that is why there is a problem. So both 1 and 2 answer will be C. Both 1 and 2, both assumptions are valid. Let's look at the second question of this set. Based on the passage, the following assumptions have been made. Poor countries need to bring about change in their existing farming techniques. Yes. Developed countries have better infrastructure and they waste less food. No, we don't know if they waste less food or not. So therefore not two. So the answer will be one only or option number A. All right, let's look at this question based on the above passage. Again, some assumptions. So this time in 2022, they had questions which had 3 assumption questions also. But in 23 and 24, they haven't. They've generally had sets of 2 questions where one is a main idea and one is an assumption question. All right, growing enough food for future generations will be a challenge. Yes, that is what the author has been saying in this passage. Corporate farming is a viable option for food security in poor countries. We don't know if corporate farming, we can assume this from anything that's said in the passage. No. So the best answer is A1 only. Okay. All right, so here are your answers. Of course, you can take these. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'm here, I'm available. If you don't have any questions to ask, well, that's all right. Next weekend will be your exam, so I'm hoping that you will do very, very well. Best of luck from my side and the entire CL team. All the best. Break a leg. Thank you so much. If you have any doubts, you can just drop the questions in the chat box. We'll get back to you right away. Okay. All right. Adios, mere amigos. चलो आज के लिए इतना ही. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Remember to hit like, share and subscribe, of course.